That's the only other one, right? Okay. I call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. on March 9th, 2022. We'll begin with a roll call. Please say here or present once I say your name. Edvate. Adagarla. Ulrich. Here. Becker. Here. Brecht. Carter. Claiborne. Here. DeVore. Filippi. Finaldi. Garcia. Goff. Haas. Kuehler. Larson. Lent. Mahoney. Here. Mascar. Mays. McCready. Yeah. Patel. Paulson. Ruley. Schnepp. Seth. Sayaway. Skaggs. Stout. Strickland. Thornton. Present. Wigmeister. Present. Weathers. Here. Bruick. Present. With that, we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance led by Speaker Weathers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That will go into the program for this evening. This evening's program is a presentation from Karen Kidrowski. Please put your laptop's screen down for the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me here. My name is Karen Kidrowski, and I'm the director of the Carrie Chapman Catt Center for Women in Politics. Ooh, I sent the wrong one. I am so sorry. So just delete that, and I will speak extemporaneously. That's my bad. I got the wrong I-score year. Amongst the things that I do is to work on student voter engagement. And so I am here to talk a little bit about what we know about Iowa State students and how they vote, and then to propose some ways that we might be able to partner. So I really started working on this intentionally in 2020, going into the presidential election year, and now hope to kind of expand expand those efforts somewhat. So starting in 2012, Iowa State began to participate in a national study called the National Study of Learning, Voting, and Engagement at Tufts University. And what this study does is to match voter rolls with student data provided by registrars. So what we can do is find out how many of our students voted and break that down by whatever demographic information is provided, but we don't know for whom they voted. Okay, so we just know whether or not they voted. And on these measures, we have found that Iowa State students consistently vote at higher than the national average. And in 2020, it was 72.9% of eligible students cast ballots in that presidential election year. But we also know, not surprisingly, like the rest of the country, that voter turnout falls in midterm election years. So we expect that to fall going into the 2022 elections. So in 2018, 24% of eligible students voted, and in 2018, it was 40%. So I think it would be great if we could keep at that 40% level or even move that up. Another thing that we know is that students are not equally likely to vote. There are very strong demographic differences among students. So male students turn out to vote at about 67% compared to female students who are about 12 points higher. We also know that students in STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, vote at consistently lower rates and as much as 10 to 20% lower than students who are in other fields such as business, education, the humanities, and social sciences. So to give you just an example, in 2020, that was the first year that students in every major, at least a majority, voted. So in some of the STEM fields, they just barely broke 50%. Compare that to area and gender studies, which was 95% voter turnout. So that's a pretty substantial disparity. Another thing that we know for the first time, shout out to our registrar, Dr. Sue Chan, is that Iowa State provided racial and ethnic data from the National Clearinghouse to Tufts University. So for the first time, we know what the differences are by race and ethnicity. And in that case, for every racial and ethnic group, with the exception of African Americans, Iowa State students vote at higher rates than their peers that share their racial or ethnic identity at other institutions. For African American students, it's about the same. But all of those racial and ethnic groups vote at lower rates than students who identify as multicultural or who identify as white. So I think that these disparities actually end up depressing Iowa State's overall voter turnout. Our Iowa State is disproportionately male. We are a very STEM-heavy school. And then, of course, anything that shows that underrepresented groups may face significant barriers to voting, I find of great concern. On top of that, there are a number of changes to Iowa voting law that I think could serve to depress student voter turnout. And these were just implemented in 2019. So, for example, county auditors no longer have complete autonomy to decide when and how they want to have early voting locations. Instead, there have to be petitions from registered voters who, by the way, are living at the address for which they are registered, which sort of precludes a lot of students who move around a lot, right, to petition for a particular location. Also, the hours that the polls are open have been reduced. Not by a lot, by an hour, but there's still less opportunity to vote on election day. There can be only one ballot drop box per county. which poses a pretty significant problem for Story County, because that means that the largest city, which is Ames, is not where the county seat is. So there would have to be some choice made. And then if it's within Ames, there can only be one drop box. So the chance that we would have a drop box on campus is pretty significantly low. And then another one that I find particularly bothersome is that the period of time to request an absentee ballot has been reduced, and the period of time to return that absentee ballot has been reduced. So in 2020, the deadline to return an absentee ballot was Election Day postmark. And as long as it showed up at least 7 days after Election Day, it was counted. Now, Election Day is the arrive by date, not the postmark date, which I think is problematic for a lot of reasons. And also, if people wake up on Election Day and think, oh my gosh, I haven't returned my absentee ballot, but their roommate says, well, hey, I'm going to drive out to Nevada and drop mine off. I can take yours too. Or I'm driving down to Des Moines and I'll just take yours along as well. The only people who can drop off a ballot in person is the voter themselves or a blood family relative. So that means that you can't hand off your ballot to your sorority sister or your roommate or your housemate who happens to be driving to the same location to drop off their ballots. So all of these things worry me on behalf of Iowa State students, and I ask for your assistance in helping to partner with us as I'm working with a group of wonderful students through the Student Innovation Center to design our voter outreach. But there are a few things where I think we can definitely partner. So first of all, I have proposed to Sonia, who I think has communicated with a few of you, to introduce a resolution that would encourage faculty to essentially treat Election Day like a prep day week. So there would be no major assignments or exams on Election Day, and that if students miss class because they're standing in a long line to vote, that would be considered an excused absence. I think you could also say that maybe classes are, lectures pre-recorded and posted on Canvas. We do know that with the exception of 2020 with the pandemic, Iowa State students are more likely to vote on Election Day than to cast absentee ballots. Second, I would also realize that with these changes to the absentee voting laws in Iowa and elsewhere, and that some other states' absentee voting laws are particularly complicated, that I would like to work with you to host a workshop where students could just come in and get help looking up whatever their state rules are, printing off their absentee ballot form, filling it out, and then we would take care of making sure that it gets mailed. So I envision this as kind of a drop-in thing. And then to do the same thing in terms of completing the ballots. Why is this important? In part because some states require a notarized signature on a ballot in order for it to be counted. And then finally, I would request some funding to purchase advertisement space to remind students about early voting opportunities, important deadlines for pre-registration, and so forth. So you might have seen some of these that we had done in 2020. They were on the back of SciRide buses and in the orange circulator. And so I would like to purchase Daily Dose ads, again, SciRide bus ads, and then also pay for some mass student emails. So I've budgeted $7,000, and if student government, I know student government, like the rest of the university, is experiencing some financial woes, but if student government can see its way to help support this, I would be most grateful. Do you have any questions? I've said a lot in a short period of time. Yeah, Mason? You're like the one senator I know. So. Yep. Yep. When I need the funding? Yeah. August or no later than maybe Labor Day, so that we can purchase the ads and get them up. I had the bus ads up for, I think, a month in 2020. I would really like to be able to have them up for a little longer than that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. Yes.
Hi, my name is Aliana. I'm the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Is there any specific ideas or initiatives towards targeting underrepresented students? I know you said that the voter turnout was low, and I know that that is generally the statistics across not only just Iowa State, but across Iowa and just voting in general in the United States. So are there any specific or targeted programs that you would have? Would it be speaking at, student organizations, or have you thought of any solutions for those?
I have thought of a few, but me sitting up in my little office in Cat Hall, talking to myself may not be the best strategy. So one thing that we want to do is to engage with student leaders of different intersectional identities to record endorsements, and we would also definitely like to have sort of peer-to-peer encouragement. I personally am happy to go out and meet with student groups and talk about this, but also I have 5 student leaders who I have secured funding for to pay to do this work in the fall, and they are going to be in charge of recruiting some volunteers as well, so that we have a small army of people who can go out and meet with student organizations and things like that. Having said that, too often we take a sort of a one-size-fits-all approach. And I am trying to be mindful of thinking about barriers that I might not realize are barriers. And that was actually behind my desire to consider the resolution, which, by the way, I'm also introducing into the Faculty Senate, and I've asked the Graduate Student and Professional Student Association to also consider passing it, because we know that a lot of our students of color also happen to be first-gen and Pell students, and they have parenting responsibilities, and they work many more hours. And so being able to sort of fit it into your schedule is really challenging. Our early voting opportunities are probably going to be like 10 to 4, right? Which may not be convenient for people who are juggling a whole lot of things during the day. So I want to make Election Day as accessible as possible, because I can't anticipate every possible barrier that our students might face. Another thing that I encountered in 2020 is that we have a pretty substantial percentage of students who come from Puerto Rico, which I think is wonderful. I keep bumping into them everywhere, and it's just great. But I had a student who met me at a voter registration table and was under the impression that she was never able to vote for president because she was Puerto Rican. And so I thought, well, maybe what we need to do is to educate students generally that they have a choice, right? You can vote in your college town, or you can vote where you consider your permanent residence if that's not your college town, so at home or elsewhere. So I was really happy to inform this student that she was not permanently disenfranchised from voting for the president. She was an American citizen, and all she needed to do was fill out a registration form, and she could vote in Iowa. And that also, inspired me to maybe have some of this information available in Spanish, which we just distributed through the Office of Multicultural Student Life. And I would certainly like to do that again. And if I can find students who are willing and able to translate basic information into other languages, call me. I'm all in. Yes.
Hi, I'm Christian Grensteiner. I'm the Director of Outreach for StuGov. I know you mentioned that you wanted to utilize SciRide and some of the signboards in the MU and using the TVs. What other outreach ideas did you have about elections? Did you plan doing any events? Did you plan doing any tabling? What about graphics and doing signboards out on campus? Like, what other ideas did you have?
I am open to any ideas that you have because all of you are smarter than me. I put together the Manat Phelps Lecture in Political Science, and we are strategically pushing that towards early September as a way of building momentum for this. I've also invited Amanda Knief from University Lectures to work with us and to help, sponsor candidate forums and things of that nature as well. What I have done in the past involves daily dose ads, the banner ads on the, I'm not doing anything on paper. It's going to be electronic. And then also I've done all campus emails to all students to the point where people were complaining to me. So I figured I had done a good job. But I love the idea of signboards. I love the idea of other digital advertising. And one of the things that we want to do is to spend this summer with some of these student leaders that I'm working with to develop graphics for social media and also graphics that can be put up on monitors and to push them out to all the communications professionals on campus so that they're sort of just ready to launch and, they get some new content, once a month or every few weeks or so. Yes. Yeah, your partner, your friend.
Out would be talking to local radio stations.
Oh.
It'd be kind of a two birds, one stone situation where you're getting to students as well as the general public.
Great, thank you. Yep.
I can go ahead and call on some of the senators and here if that's all right too. We'll just go along. We'll start with Senator Seth, and then we'll have Speaker Weathers ask.
Hi, is this working? Is it on? Okay, I have no idea. I can't tell. First of all, I love the idea of a resolution to treat Election Day as a prep week. I remember in 2020, my professor for one of my classes was like, just go vote. Like, don't come to class, just vote. And I really appreciated that. I mean, I voted early, but for students who hadn't, it was really nice that, my professor, gave us that time. But what I wanted to ask about was the workshops and the ad space. So I'm assuming you would want workshops and the ad space to be kind of like a recurring thing for every election year. And so I guess my question would be I know that you're wanting initially to look at funding from student government to kind of get that going off the ground, but if you wanted this to be a continuous program, where would you, in the future, where would that funding come from? And maybe, what would that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So one of the things that I would like to do, and I've been talking with my department chair in political science, is to do a fundraising campaign to see if we can get an endowed fund that would support this work over the long term. The second thing that we are looking at is some external grants. So I paid for the ads in 2020 by getting a grant from an organization called Ask Every Student. And, I will certainly apply, and I did in 2021, and, I didn't get the grant. So, we have to then have a plan B. The CAT Center and Poli-Sci have been funding some of this, through various funds that we have, some resources. But you're right, it needs to be sustainable. And the ads are really the costly thing. In terms of the workshops, I think that, the cost there would be, spreading the word and maybe buying stamps and having some paper. But we can, collect a bunch of laptops and have them available. We can get them networked to probably only one printer because some states are paper-based only, so you have to have that. But we also know from, sort of the national literature that one of the biggest barriers for students who want to vote absentee is that they don't know where to go buy a stamp. And on the Iowa form, you have to know the street address of your residence hall. Do any of you know the street address of your residence hall? That's like 2. Okay. Good on you, but it's not commonly known. And of course, for our most inexperienced students, our newest students, that's an even bigger barrier.
Okay, yeah, that's a great answer. So would they, if it was an endowed fund, that would go through what foundation? Probably.
Yeah,
ISU
it would go through
Foundation?
Iowa State Foundation. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. I yield.
Go over to Speaker Weathers next.
2 things. I move to add Senator Sayway to the roll.
Any objection? All right, seeing none, Senator Sayway's been added to the roll.
All right, and then for you, Karen, thank you for coming and speaking.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
No, I still have a question. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, that was my preface. My bad.
My bad. I thought I was being dismissed.
No. I'm definitely a proponent of finding funding. That's a conversation we'll probably have to have, but I think you'd find a lot of people would be in favor of that. So the question I have for you, aside from that, though, is you mentioned, and Senator Seth brought this up, the treating Election Day as a prep week day. Have you found that other schools have done that, or have they done something similar, and have they found success, I guess?
There's actually a national movement to make Election Day a campus holiday.
Sure.
And before I came to Iowa State, I was at a public institution in South Carolina where Election Day was a state holiday. So we were closed anyway. And that was done and it was done from K-12 and post-secondary because a lot of those locations were used as polling places. So I come here and, I asked the provost office. I don't want to say that I asked the provost personally, but the answer I got was, well, there doesn't seem to be a problem, so no, we don't do anything with Election Day. I realize that probably asking to make Election Day a campus holiday is a big ask, right? And it would for sure, I think, get a no because for 2 things. Number one is that it wreaks havoc with scheduling, especially for any classes with labs or recitations, because if you miss a Tuesday, you have to meet and pick up another random Tuesday. So that's a little tough. And then secondly, there's just not the same sense, I think, of civic ethos on campus yet. I'm trying to work with groups like you to build that. So I figure we'll start here, and then maybe we can, escalate or ask a little bit more as we go along. So I picked this notion of making it like prep week because I thought it was far more doable.
Okay, yeah, I'd agree. I think it's a good gradual place to start. So, Thank you.
I would also say something on top of that. It's really challenging to get a university holiday. Julia and I have been working with the Board of Regents this year to make Juneteenth a holiday in the summer, and that's even during the summer. So I get your struggle there, and I think, the prep week sounds like a more feasible route.
Right. And, and I can imagine that a lot of faculty who are on the whole very supportive of voting would be a little bit nervous about being told that they have to give up a day of instruction. So.
Any other questions for our speaker? Thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, moving on to open forum. Open forum is an open discussion of issues relevant to students. If anyone is here tonight to speak during open forum, please approach the mic. All right. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and move on to adopting the agenda for tonight. Are there any additions or changes to tonight's agenda? Senator Ulrich.
I move to add 2021-3-023Y to the bottom of new business.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any objection? Right, they've been added to the bottom of new business. All right. Any other additions to tonight's agenda? Senator Seth.
I move to add 2021-3-038 SD to special orders as reflected on the screen.
Been a motion to move 21-3-038 SD to the bottom of special orders. Is there a second? All right. Seeing no objections, it's been added to the bottom of special orders. Any other changes for tonight's agenda? Is there a second? Right, seeing no objection, tonight's agenda has been adopted. Moving on to approval of minutes from last week. Is there a motion to approve last week's minutes?
I move to table the approval of last week's minutes until next week. They're not finished.
It's been a motion to table the minutes from last week. Is there a second? Any objection to tabling last week's minutes? All right, seeing none. Last week's minutes have been tabled. We're moving on to committee reports, beginning with rules with Speaker Weathers.
All right, howdy everybody. Rules had their meeting last night, went for about an hour. We started and we had a confirmation hearing for the UROC nominee, Slade, sitting back there. I'm sure many of you recognize her. She's an at-large on SI, I believe. A very dedicated member of Student Government Rules Committee thought so as well. So no problems, no scheduling conflicts. I think you'll all find that she will make a great candidate. And then we saw the PR bill last night, and that was sent favorably, vote of 3-2. There's some changes made to that to make it more workable with PR committee, move some of the deadlines back, and to also address the specific election result data. But I can talk about that when the bill comes up. And then we also had the asset contract bill. There are 17 contracts in there, and Rules Committee only just saw them prior to the meeting. We sent it favorably. There doesn't seem to be any problems because they're all a carbon copy of the same contracts from last year, except the totals are changed and the dates are updated. So we didn't see any glaring problems there. We spent probably 10-15 minutes going through that. Yeah, I think that's all I got. Move to add Senator Breckton Goff to the roll.
Any objection? Right, they've both been added to the roll. Moving on to Finance Committee with Finance Director Zastro.
Yeah, so yesterday we had the shortest meeting that I've ever been in. We got done in like 3 minutes or something like that. All we had was the asset recommendations. Those were sent favorably. The bigger stuff for Finance Committee is the stuff that's on new business. They're going to be 2 weeks because we got spring break next week until these are on second read. So the way that the Parley Pro is going to work for these is pretty wacky. And we will talk more about that next week, I'm thinking. But for now, all you really need to know is all the totals are given under the appendices for the annual allocations bill. And so when you're talking about just regular clubs like Cardinal Space Mining Club or, women's hockey or whatever, those are all in the first of the two bills, the annual allocations recommendation for FY23. And if you want to see the entire budgets, those are on our online finance program. I've emailed that link to you a while back. I can resend it tonight as part of my weekly update, and then also that is also on the finance committee page or on the funding page, on our website. If you intend on pulling a club's budget, meaning we're going to take a look at it and maybe you have an intention of amending it, you need to let me know that before the meeting. We always want to have a representative from an organization here if we're intending on changing their funding, especially if the intention is to move it down. So if you plan on doing that, you absolutely need to tell me before next Wednesday, before 2 Wednesdays from now, and you're welcome to do so. We will always pull student government's budget on its own, by the way. So I'm already aware that we'll be doing that. But aside from that, I don't have any further updates. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. I know that this is kind of some strange procedure.
Speaker Weathers.
So obviously people should ask questions if they're planning on pulling a budget. If we see something in the heat of the moment that we didn't see before, is it still possible to do it then without the club being there? Obviously bad practice. But.
Yeah, but I think it's really bad practice. What I would say about that is also if you this is something that you need to be looking at over break. If you have the opportunity, if you got a plane ride or a long car ride where you're not the one driving, do not look at bills while you're driving, please. Then that would be a good opportunity to go through OFP, look at maybe some larger budgets, or maybe look at budgets for organizations that you're involved in, and just to double check that finance committee isn't making mistakes. We saw it's definitely over 100 budgets. I don't know the exact number. Probably close to 115, I would think. But so like we had a lot of hearings, and I'm sure we made mistakes along the way, inconsistencies from organization to organization, despite our best intentions and our best efforts. Finance committee put a ton of time into this, but despite this, it's just such a huge process. So if you see a mistake, please go through this ahead of time, because on the floor of the Senate, you will not be having time to be looking through budgets that you've not already looked through.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Finance Director Zastro? All right, moving on to PR Committee with Director of Outreach, excuse me.
Good evening, everyone. PR met last night. We're continuing working on new outreach ideas to improve, and whether that's us finishing out the last couple of weeks or leaving things set up for the success of the people that will take over. We will be working on a town hall of the sort, debating on tonight's bill, and then it is International Women's Month, so some of the members of PR Committee are reaching out to women in administration and writing stories about them to be spotlighted on our social media. And then lastly, my last newsletter that I will be doing will be going out at the beginning of April. I'll be reaching out to some of you that will be leaving student government, maybe get a quote from you. This newsletter goes out to over 700 students. A lot of these students are freshmen or transfer students that came in. And so hopefully seeing that so many of you had such a great time in student government will encourage them to maybe join next year or reach out after receiving that about knowing how to get involved. And then I'm going to give it off to Director of Outreach, Grensteiner. He has something he would like to say too.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to mention quickly about the tabling situation this week and future plans. So this week, I did have a tabling session reserved through Event Management Office on Tuesday. And I did have slots for about 3 hours during prime time. I only had one person sign up at the very end. Thank you, Eddie, for signing up. But however, that did make a little ding on student government's end through Event Management Office. It is required through Event Management Office that we have someone at the table at all times, and I didn't have anyone at the table at all times. I only had someone at the very end. So that does make student government look a little worse through Event Management Office, and it may cause future conflicts regarding reserving tables through the MU and outside for future situations. So I just want to remind you guys to please sign up for tabling sessions so that doesn't happen again. We are only allowed to have 8 tabling sessions a semester, and so we lost one already, and it wasn't a very well used one. So I will be making another one for the week after spring break, so I really do encourage you guys to please sign up for that. I know you guys do have some outreach hours that you need to fill out and complete. But if you do have any questions for me regarding tabling or outreach, please feel free to let me know. Thank you.
Moving on to Director of Diversity and Inclusion with Director Booman.
Hi, everyone. So a lot of things have been going on with the DEI committee. One major thing is, so the Senate reform bill has been tabled. We will be hopefully introducing it in the fall instead of my term. There are a lot of logistics that we need to figure out, along with doing some more outreach and kind of planning ahead of time. So I had really good conversations with Sophia. We are still working on everything, but we are hoping to introduce the bill in the fall. So I will be leaving really good transition documents for the future director and firms that may be, so they can continue that work. On Sunday, I had a presentation with one of my DEI committee members. We gave the inclusive language presentation, although modified, for the fashion show producers. They were very appreciative. They really liked it. So that was very exciting. This is the first time I gave the presentation. After spring break, I will also be giving the inclusive language presentation to the ISU Daily, Trend Magazine staff, as well as the PR committee. I will also be creating a generalized inclusive language presentation
Great. Moving on to Student Initiatives Committee with Senator Slade.
Hi, folks. Hope midterm week is treating y'all well. SI committee had its regular meeting on Monday. We mostly just went through updates on projects. So we've got a number of projects coming through the pipeline right now. We filled out some event auth forms, some space request forms for those. So hopefully those projects will be approved soon and we can start doing some advertising for them. And yeah, I wrote a bill to have, potentially Senator Slade added back onto Student Initiatives Committee. So just keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming up tonight probably if she gets, voted in as a senator. But yeah, that's about it. We're kind of in a little lull right now with events because it's right around spring break. So yeah.
All right. Civic Engagement Committee with Senator Paulson.
Hello, everyone. Just recently, my committee, we've been able to look over and discuss the Local Affairs Committee, which you'll see. It's a new business, but it's basically just kind of restructuring the committee, but we're all very excited about it. And then with that, just have a good spring break.
All right. Comments from the Student Government Advisor with Sophia.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good night and a good midterms week. This is my weekly reminder that if you have a t-shirt in my office, please come pick it up. I'd like to get rid of the box. They're all very meticulously labeled. If you cannot find a time that works for you, the Student Engagement Office is open from 8 to 7 most days, and then Friday we are open 8 to 5. I can leave it at the front desk for you and you can just pick it up at your leisure, but please pick those up. Beyond that, just remember that you are here representing students and your constituents, so be involved in the conversations, especially with all of the funding ones, and then just in general, think about the larger scope that your impact has on the campus community. That's all.
Representative from the Judicial Branch.
Good evening, everybody. Just give you an update on our last meeting. We decided to elect pro tempore after we finally got ourselves a chief. I was elected as pro tempore and am standing in today for Alex as he is unavailable. One thing that we really do want you guys to think about, which I did talk to a couple senators earlier about, is the court is looking to make some kind of training program, since all of our people, for the most part, are brand new. And I can confidently say that we are not confident about knowing everything like Berwick does. And so we're going to work on perhaps making some training videos and some kind of document review that we can give to our newly seated justices. And I noticed that perhaps Senate might need something like that too. And so I was thinking about reaching out to you guys to see if anyone would like to work with me on creating some kind of training program that is basically a packet for all of student government. So yeah, if anyone is interested in that, reach out to me today over email or just talk to me after this. So thank you.
Comments from the Executive Branch with President Campbell.
Good evening and happy last Senate meeting before spring break. I hope that you have plans, whether it's to rest and catch up on a favorite book or TV show or travel. Safe travels, and hope you enjoy it. A pretty brief update this week. It's from my notebook. I'll send the Campbell Scoop out shortly. Director of Equal Opportunity finalist interview started today. The first interview was on campus, and Vice President Decker and I joined the candidate for Panera Bread lunch. It was great. But he had a nice conversation with him, and all information for candidates along with their CVs and more information can be found on the President's website under ongoing searches. We'll share more about that as the process continues. Additionally, the strategic plan is continuing to go on. I want to say thank you. If any members of cabinet who you are here tonight, we had a great discussion about some feedback that we'll pass on to the Vice President of Research, Dr. Peter Dorhout, who's leading this charge at Iowa State. So just thank you to cabinet for your ideas, and I really appreciate the time tonight. More information about the strategic plan that would run through 2031 is also on the President's website, and I'll include both links to those in my executive update. Faculty Senate met last night. You might have seen the Iowa State Daily article. If you haven't, I would encourage you to check it out. If you have questions about the discussion that went on, Director of Academic Affairs, Emily Roberts, is happy to have a conversation with you. One of the main topics was related to funding and the financial situation for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. Again, more information can be found in the Daily article or by talking to the Director, Roberts. Megan and I had our meeting with Dr. Younger recently and had a really nice conversation. We're wrapping up our time with some of these administrators, and which is bittersweet, but we're looking forward to passing to the next incoming group of students. So congratulations to all who was elected, and to everyone who ran. Thank you for putting yourself out there. You are what makes this organization run, and it couldn't happen without all of you. So thank you for everything. But with that, the National Panhellenic Council space out here will be officially opening April 1st at, it might be April 3rd at 1 o'clock p.m. Regardless, more information on the ribbon cutting ceremony will be made available to everyone. The gates are still up right now until they're able to get cameras up in that space, similar to how they have them elsewhere on campus, just for the safety of the new construction. Finally, last one, I'm going to be working on transition planning. I haven't really started about it, so I'm in that process. We're doing some final projects as we push towards Financial Literacy Month. If anybody has questions, please feel free to reach out. And for those of you that reached out about the two committees I'd talked about earlier, I have some emails that'll be going out later tonight. So thank you all. Have an awesome, awesome spring break, and enjoy the last meeting.
All right, we'll move on to External Matters, General Orders, 2021-3-033 SA, ratifying the fiscal year 2023 asset contracts with Senator Ruley, and I don't believe Senator Ruley is, and Senator Claiborne, I believe, is the, perfect.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lydia Youngquist. I'm the nonprofit coordinator on Cabinet. I'll just give you a quick background in ASSET if some of you don't know about it. ASSET is the Analysis of Social Services Evaluation Team. That's what it stands for. And it's a collaboration between the City of Ames, Story County, United Way, and Iowa State student government. So instead of nonprofit agencies going to each funder and asking for money, it's a streamlined process where they can all come to one place and get funding from each of the funders. So volunteers from each of the funders look through submitted data, financials, they ask questions in agency hearings, and participate in allocation workshops to recommend the funding. So what we have presented in the contracts is the recommended funding from our allocation workshops. The contracts are for buying services. So that's how we buy the services via a contract based on the funding recommendations. This year, we're funding 16 agencies and 35 programs. The total requested was $297,798, but our total allocated is $260,275, which is a 2% increase from last year, which is something that we have written in a contract that we're going to do a 2% increase. Just a background on what ISU is funding. For our funding, we looked at data related to ISU student usage and program effectiveness, as well as our priorities. The priorities listed last year were childcare services, basic needs, assault care services, substance abuse treatment, diversity and inclusion programs, and legal aid services. So those were our priorities going into funding. Speaking of priorities, this is something that we will do again this year to establish for next year's asset. So have those conversations with your constituents, figure out what the issues are at Iowa State so we can prioritize funding those programs. Does anyone have any questions?
Speaker Weathers.
Hi, Lydia. So am I correct in understanding that with Asset, we typically fund organizations that contribute something towards students, at least broadly speaking? Okay, so I know because a lot of the organizations on here, at least on their face, don't seem like they're student-facing, but I know they have student-facing aspects, right?
Yeah, when we do it, there's a program called Clear Impact Scorecard. That's where all the nonprofit agencies are required to report their data to. So when we do go through and make our fundings, we do look at ISU students served, and that's a priority when we do our recommendations.
Okay, great, thank you.
Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? Seeing no objections, we're going to go ahead and go to closing comments with Senator Claiborne. No closing comments. Just so everyone is aware, we need a 2/3 majority vote, which there's 33 seated senators right now, so that'd be 22 of everyone here tonight. So we'll do a roll call vote for that. Please vote yes, no, or abstain, beginning with Adagarla. Ulrich. Yes. Becker. Yes. Recht. Yes. Bruick. Yes. Claiborne. Yes. Filippi. Yes. Benaldi. Yes. Goff. Yes. Haas. Yes. Larson. Yes. Mahoney. Yes. Moskar. Yes. Mays. Yes. McCready. Yes. Patel. Yes. Paulson. Yes. Knepp. Yes. Seth. Stayaway. Yes. Skaggs. Yes. Stout. Yes. Thornton. No. Wagmeister. Yes. Weathers. Yes. I have a vote of 24 to 1 to 0. The bill passes.
Thank you. Do I have to talk for the other one too?
Yeah, you can stay up there.
Okay,
Yep,
awesome.
You're all good. We'll move on to 2021-3-017, approving the asset recommendations with Senator Ruley, which I believe Senator Claiborne would still be the one, but he will extend his time to you.
Yeah, this is basically the same as the other one, right? And if anyone has questions about the highlighted part here, that it doesn't pertain to Iowa State student government. Those are, the Bridge Home is funded by the other funders, but not by us. So their funding is sequestered because they're having conversations of what emergency shelter or rapid housing, what it means. So they're sequestering the funding until they figure that out, but Iowa State doesn't fund them, so it doesn't pertain to us.
Senator Seth.
Okay, so I guess this would go to you, Nonprofit Coordinator Youngquist. I guess I'm just a little confused about what exactly the difference is between this bill and the one we just passed. I don't know if either you or Finance Director Zastro would like to explain, because I'm a little unclear.
Hello? Yeah, so the last one is ratifying the contracts that we have with every individual agency. This bill is ratifying the agreement with the other asset partners. And correct me if you disagree, Lydia. This one is ratifying with the other asset partners, saying that we're approving all of their budgets to disperse to all the different organizations. So if we had a particular problem with how much an organization was getting funded as part of the asset process, if we thought that there was some issue along the way, we would be able to not ratify this or ratify an amended version of this. But frankly, I don't think anybody in the room aside from Lydia is qualified to speak to whether or not anything should not be funded from another partner. So yeah, all good to me.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. I was just a little lost. Thank you. I yield.
Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? Any closing comments? No closing comments. Since this is a finance bill, we will be doing a roll call vote. Please vote yes, no, or abstain. Adagarla. Ulrich. Yes. Becker. Yes. Brecht. Bruick. Claiborne. Filippi. Finaldi. Goff. Haas. Larson. Mahoney. Moscar. Mays. McCready. Patel. Paulson. Schnepp. Seth. Fayaway. Gags. Stout. Thornton. Wagmeister. Weathers. A vote of 24 to 1 to 0. The bill passes.
Thank you. And if anyone has any questions about specifics, I have a whole spreadsheet, so just send me an email. And also think about priorities and send me an email about that if you have any ideas. Thank you.
Thanks, Lydia. Moving on to Internal Matters Special Orders 2021-3-037 SD, confirming the nomination of a United Residents Off-Campus Senator with Speaker Weathers.
Ella, if you want to go ahead and approach the podium. Yeah, same thing as you've seen probably a dozen times now before. Nothing breaking the mold, and Ella is a particularly qualified candidate, but I'll let her speak to that.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ella Slade. A lot of you probably have seen me around. I've been a member of SI committee for the past few weeks now. I've been pretty actively involved in a lot of the projects we're working on. We've already executed some events, and I would love to continue my role in student government as a senator, just involvement in the policymaking process here and serving as a representative for those students who live off campus, who are also members of the Ames community. And I'm aware of the time constraints that it has to be a senator. I have no schedule conflicts. Are there any questions you have for me?
Senator Seth.
I'd just like to say that Ella is awesome. She approached me about joining the committee, and I interviewed her, and she was super excited and has done a great job so far in her few weeks as being a member of SI committee. She actually likes taking minutes for us, which is absolutely, she voluntarily takes the minutes for SI committee and genuinely enjoys doing it. So we love Ella. Also, she designs a lot of stuff for us for logos and whatnot. So she's been super active and is always volunteering to do more things in SI committee. So I think she's going to be a great senator.
Senator Schnepp.
I also just want to kind of add on to that. She is amazing. She's not even in PR committee, but comes to the meetings sometimes just because she enjoys it. She likes talking, she likes hanging out, and she loves to be in student government. So I think she would be a great asset to have as a senator here. So, yeah.
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Any closing comments from Speaker Weathers? We'll go to a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to confirming the nominee for off-campus senator unanimously? All right, seeing no objections, you are confirmed, and we'll have a Supreme Court justice come up to confirm you.
Please repeat after me. I solemnly swear
I solemnly swear
to execute the duties of my position
to execute the duties of my position
as prescribed in the Constitution
as prescribed in the Constitution
and the laws of the government
and the laws of the government
for the benefit of all students.
for the benefit of all students.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
We can have you take a seat wherever you can find room.
Should I stay for SI confirmation?
Yeah, that is the next bill up. You're good. All right. 2021-3-03 SG, reconfirming a senator to Student Initiatives Committee with Senator Seth.
Howdy, folks. I mentioned this earlier in my update. So as happened when Senator Mays was confirmed as a senator, technically she was no longer part of SI committee because she's now a senator. A similar thing has happened with Senator Slade. So technically she's not really a member of Student Initiatives Committee, so we need to reconfirm her to the committee as a senator and not an at-large. And we really do want to keep her because it's really nice to have somebody who likes to take the minutes. So please vote yes on this. It's pretty this is just procedural. Nothing really changes. Ella would still be a member of SI just as a senator now. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. It's kind of funky. So
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Any closing comments? Senator Seth? No. No closing comments. We'll go into a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to confirming the nominee to Student Initiatives Committee unanimously? Seeing no objections, you've been confirmed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to general orders, 2021-3-034, SO, tasking a public relations committee with developing outreach reforms with Speaker Weathers.
Okay, hi everybody. I expect a pretty good debate on this tonight, but as the author, I won't have much for speaking privileges. So first and foremost, I just want to say I apologize to PR committee for not holding more conversations with you beforehand. That being said, the conversation tonight, the debate, I would rather have kept to the bill and its merits alone. Just its effects and what it will do rather than everything leading up to it, but I do apologize. So starting off this bill, a few weeks ago, I think most everybody in here is aware of the daily article that got published indicating an incredibly low amount of awareness of student government among the student body. Being that our ability to affect change stems from how confident the student body is in us. That's something that should be a call to action for everyone in here. I didn't see much in the way being done about that, so that's what the origin of this was. It's not an indictment of PR committee by any means. I think our lack of outreach is a systemic issue with the body. But the reason I wrote this bill is it's an outreach problem, right? So if we have a problem in a particular area and we have a committee that deals in that particular area, it makes sense to me to task that committee with at least brainstorming some ideas to solve this problem, which is what the majority of this bill does. I've talked to Bryce about some ideas for coming up with a formal plan of action, just some ideas on how to reorient our outreach efforts. I know Vice Speaker Bates had some ideas, and I think he's mentioned those before as well. So there's lots that can be done, and obviously we're coming up on the end of all of our terms in here. So there's some things that can be done right away, but I imagine a lot of this that's going to show up in the formal plan of action, a lot that's feasible, is going to be stuff for the future, for the coming term. So just setting ourselves up for success in the future, developing a plan for that. It's a plan for action. So, I apologize. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else super pressing right now. The dates are flexible. Obviously, I want this to be have a as great a chance of success as it can. So if we need to move the dates back, more than amenable to doing that. Yeah, I really encourage all of you to ask me questions if you have them, because I won't be able to speak during the bill. So I yield.
Senator Brecht.
Yes, I have just a few things with this. Like Dawson said, we've all seen the article. Obviously, we all knew that student government had pretty low recognition on campus anyway. A few things with that. I want to note that the bill also says Public Relations Committee explores and adopts new methods of outreach that extend beyond the social media mediums that we currently use. I'm going to touch back on what Christian said earlier about that. We do have other mediums besides social media. We have the tabling, but like what happened yesterday, one person signed up to table, and it looks a little bad. Some other conversations we've had are that, so in addition, we have other events, but again, people aren't showing up, and so it feels like a little bit of a waste of student fees if we are throwing events for ourselves and only student government members show up. Additionally, so this town hall, the bill also says that this has been an issue for years, and I agree. I think we can all see it, especially people who have been involved in student government for longer. My question then is, how is a town hall going to fix that? If these problems have continued for years, how is one town hall that we're going to have in just a few weeks going to fix that? And also, if students already don't care about student government, why would they want to show up to an event that is pretty much about student government? I will yield.
Senator Becker.
Okay, yes. So kind of
you mentioned that maybe we could move the dates back. I think that's a good conversation to get into. Should people be really passionate about passing the bill? Because as of right now, we would have to present to Senate what our plan is 2 weeks from today. But, next week is spring break and people will be traveling and with their families and doing things that are good for their mental health. And I don't think it's fair to put the work period right over spring break. So maybe if we could get more time.
Senator Mahoney.
I personally like pretty much the first and second order clauses where having some sort of formal plan come together. I think, yeah, we do need to have a serious look at what we as an organization can continue to do better with our outreach. I also kind of concur that I don't see what positive effects town halls have. I don't disagree that doing town halls has some positive effect. I just am struggling to see how we're going to get decent turnout for it, especially this late in the semester. People don't really care that much. They're focused. They've got their heads to the grindstone right now, working about finals and everything coming up. I think especially after spring break, a lot of people just kind of check out. And so I don't see what benefit a town hall is going to have. As we get into debate, I will probably later motion to strike that, but I want to kind of adopt some of the other amendments first. So with that, just to kind of get them out of the way, I'm going to move to adopt the rules amendments.
There's been a motion and a second to adopt the Rules Committee amendments. We'll go into a discussion period on that. Did you say call to question? Is there any objection to voting now? All right, we're voting on the amendment right now. We'll do unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to adding the Rules Committee amendments unanimously? Right, seeing no objections, the Rules Committee amendments have been added. We're back on the main motion.
Madam President, I move to add Vice Speaker Advait and Senator Rulli to the roll.
Right, any objection to adding Senator Rulli and Senator Advait to the roll? Seeing no objections, they've been added to the roll. Senator Bruick.
I guess I share some of the concerns that have been brought up, specifically about the town hall, the third ordered clause. What was that? Okay. So I guess I just wanted to ask, I guess anyone on PR committee, I don't know if it wants to be Director Garmin or anyone in the Senate, but do you believe there's any way we could effectively host a meaningful town hall in the time frame, even with the finance or the Rules Committee amendments, even with those, and could we host a meaningful town hall in this time period?
I personally don't think so. We have to take into consideration next week is spring break. I'm not going to expect anyone on PR committee to work during that to try and planning this. And like people have stated before, it's hard to get people to come. We use food as an incentive. It doesn't work. People don't come. So we are having events and we are paying for events that are only student government members are coming to. If we want to go down this route, we need a lot more time to sit down and plan exactly what we're going to talk about here and how we want to get students to come that might not have cared about student government before. So that's why I just don't think planning a town hall during this time period will be effective, and I don't think that we will get attendance.
All right, thank you. I yield.
Senator Seth.
First of all, has Senator Slade been added to the roll?
Senator Sayaway.
Slade. All right, well, let's motion to add Senator Slade to the roll.
Is there any objection? All right, Senator Slade's been added to the roll.
And then, two things. So my first thing was to talk about how I would say that I'm in agreement with I think it was Senator Becker who said this, but I think asking PR committee to have a report done by March 23rd isn't very feasible. I don't think it's fair to ask students to work on stuff over spring break. The whole point of it is to be a break. And I think, they could probably make it work, but they would be very rushed. So I think we should give them more time to do this. So I would definitely be in favor of an amendment pushing that date for a Senate report back by 1 or 2 weeks, maybe even 2. Well, maybe not because our term is ending soon, but I would be in favor of pushing it back. And then my second thing is I wanted to ask this to I presume Speaker Weather, since you're the author of the bill. What was your, idea surrounding the town hall when you wrote this bill? Like, what benefits did you think it would have at the time when you wrote this bill?
Sure.
I think we had seen a fair bit of success with the multicultural town halls, at least the first two. And I think those are very good. We had productive conversations come out of those. But I think there's also issues that the student body has that expand beyond a multicultural town hall, right? Which is why it's a call for a general town hall. This late in the year, I understand that concern. I think I understand why people might be pressed to get it done in time, but that's why we pushed the date back. But that's beside the point. So I guess what could be done with the town hall at this point would be you're facilitating new senators who are coming in, right? So you could invite all the new members of student government to come in. You invite all the old members of student government to come in, and you could invite the student body to come in. And then with those three parties, I think you could really set yourselves up for success in the coming year, right?
So then I guess as a follow-up question to that, would you be amenable to maybe potentially changing that wording to do something along the lines of like kind of like a mixer between like a public mixer between the new members of student government and I guess like current or on their way out members of student government or something of that nature?
Yeah, I think that's the best route. I left the language broad so that PR committee can make that decision, but yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I yield.
President?
Senator Vape.
I move an amendment to change the date to issue the formal plan from March 23rd to April 4.
Been a motion to move March 23rd to April 4th. Is there a second? All right, we'll go into a discussion period on that amendment. Senator Vape.
I'll just sort of explain my rationale here. I think my goal is to keep discussion on topic. I think we can agree that a report would be helpful. We can also agree that making students work over spring break is a little too much. I think this is sort of striking a good middle ground between those two poles in here, but I'll yield for more discussion. I yield.
Senator Seth.
This is a question for Senator Bate. When you say April 4th, are you wanting PR to release the report on April 4th? Because that's a Monday. So I wasn't sure if you wanted them to give like a program in Senate, because if so, that would need to be amended to the 6th.
I suppose the goal was to have it on April 4th, at least 2 days before Senate, so senators at least have one full day, that being Tuesday, to look at the report before Senate, I suppose.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
Senator Bruick.
I guess I just have another question for, Director Garman. If that date works for you, or if there is a preferred date, because like that kind of is just a number I think we've just pulled. So I'd rather get your input.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all confused. Is we just don't know what's expected of us for that report. Like, just you want us to come up with a bunch of brand new ways to outreach within I guess I just don't understand what is expected of us based off of the broadness. I know that you guys said it left it up to PR, but like, is it a presentation? Is it a document? What do you want? Like, so I think that's where we're all confused. You can give us this date, but we don't know what's expected. Okay.
Yeah, we're just speaking
Yeah,
on.
sorry.
You're all good.
Okay,
We're
so I
speaking
mean,
on
you
the-
can throw out, I guess you can, without knowing that the date is going to have to work, because, I mean, the last Senate meeting is 6 for you guys, and, we're done 2. So there really isn't an alternative. We can't keep continuing to push it back.
All right, and then I guess, seeing no one else, I will call the question on the amendment.
There's been an objection. Do you withdraw? All right, Speaker Weathers.
Sorry, I just want to talk about that. I understand pushing it back further, but then, yeah, if we are the last meeting before Senate there, if PR committee were to develop any changes that we need to make, that we want to make within this term, we wouldn't be able to necessarily do that very quickly. If they submitted on Monday, they would have to get bills in by 5 p.m. or add them to the agenda. So I think maybe the 30th would have been my preferred date. It gives time for Senate to make changes if PR committee finds some changes. Yeah, just keeping it germane to the date, that's all.
Senator Larson.
I move to add Senator Lent to the roll.
Any objection? Senator Lent's been added to the roll. Senator Mahoney.
Respectfully, Speaker Weathers, I'm going to disagree. I don't think, realistically, any changes that Senate would need to make coming from this bill is just not something we're going to be going to be able to affect, in my opinion, before the end of the term. I think we're just running up too close to it. And I think any changes that come out of this report are probably going to need to be something that Senate, the next session does. That being said, I think there is enough of us returning next semester, especially with our current president, vice president, everybody else, that will still be able to carry forward some of the changes into the next session. So I think I would rather give PR more time to come up with a better report and better ideas so that then the next session can go ahead and implement them rather than trying to rush it so that this session specifically can be the one to implement them.
Question has been called for on the amendment and seconded. We're going to go into a voting period on that amendment. We'll do a placard vote, so please vote yes, no, or abstain on the proposed amendment, beginning with yeses. Noes? Any abstentions? Vote of 28 to 1 to 0. The amendment passes. Back on the main motion.
Madam President, I move to strike the last ordered clause from the bill.
And a motion to strike the last ordered clause of the bill. Is there a second? We'll go into a discussion period on the amendment. Senator Debate.
Again, to sort of explain my rationale here, the way I'm thinking of this bill at this point is, considering the concerns that have been brought up, is perhaps PR committee can put out a report similar to the report that I have in mind is something like the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan, the SIGAR report, something of the sort, something that can be handed on to the next PR committee. Coming out of the experience of the current PR committee, I'm not sure General Town Hall is quite the stance to take here. So I'm moving to strike this so as a Senate we can focus on the other more constructive parts of the bill, something that can more realistically be accomplished in this term. I'd like to open it up to discussion now. I yield.
Senator Schnepp.
Yeah, I just want to say, also, we're talking about PR being able to do it, and I feel like if we put the time in over spring break, we'd be able to do it. But we won't be able to give the student body enough time to actually come to the meeting. I know for me personally, to get something in my schedule, I have to think about it 2 to 3 weeks in advance. I'm sure you guys all are very busy as well. So thinking about that for future meetings and such things like that, I think we should kind of think that in mind as well when planning certain events. So, yeah.
Senator Mahoney.
I would also be, I'm in support of this amendment. I just don't think, again, I do agree with the importance of a town hall, and it's something I would like to see probably happen next semester, but that would give it enough time to advertise it and give it enough time to get everything to put in order so that we can have an effective one. As somebody who has hosted events as of late, it takes a long freaking time to get the ball rolling through EventAuth and then to get a mass email sent out or to get any sort of advertising. The university bureaucracy moves very, very slow on any sort of effective advertising in that sense. And so I would be very, very worried about if we were to do one even April 8th. I'm not sure you'd be able to do, like if we wanted to do a mass email, which I think would be an important part of potentially effectively advertising for this event, this town hall, you just probably wouldn't be able to get it done fast enough because you'd have to get it through EventAuth and then get it through and get it through and get it through. And it takes a long flipping time. And so I just don't think an effective use of our resources at this time to be hosting a town hall and to take away some of PR's focus from hopefully doing a very, very effective report and coming up with very, very effective ideas to host a town hall that probably won't be that beneficial. I think we should focus the efforts solely on this report so that maybe next semester with a new PR committee and new blood and the next session, we can do a town hall and continue to move the ball forward on what better outreach we can do.
Senator Larson. Speaker Weathers.
Yeah, my heart and soul is not tied to this clause, so it's okay either way, really. But I really do think that we as student government, especially a PR committee with a considerable amount of people, like 14 people, right, or so around there. And this is a month away too, right, that we're talking. And I know that PR committee has been exploring the town hall since the bill was introduced last week. So I think it's more than ample time. We've organized events in quicker time. And especially if we do think a town hall is an important activity, right? We've had success in the past with town halls. I don't see why we couldn't have one here. I think it's ample time. I think we'd get a lot of benefit from it, especially if we have old members of student government there and new ones there. I don't see the real problems with it, I suppose. Yeah, I'll yield for now.
Senator Wagmeister.
Yeah, I love town halls as much, or I'd argue more than the next guy. But no matter what the intention or goal of this town hall is, I think you'd be naive in thinking that like more than, hardly any students are going to show up. I mean, 12 to 15% of students did the bare minimum and vote in a student government election. I don't know that they're going to block a couple hours out of their night to come to the Memorial Union or wherever it's going to be at. I think, if we want to be more public on the report that the PR committee comes out with, I think that'd be a good way to get students that have concerns to funnel them towards student government, but I don't know that a town hall would be an effective use of the PR committee's time, especially considering time drawing so short on the term.
Senator Mays.
I mean, I guess the way I see it is the town hall is being done for PR committee to talk about what they're doing to, improve outreach things. But it's talking about the things PR needs to do, but PR hasn't been able to implement particular changes yet in order to advertise for this event that is very, very soon. So I guess I just don't see how we can well advertise it with how PR is now, or even just with the university in general. If we're going to be implementing changes or trying to see what changes can be done to PR committee, how are they going to be able to implement those changes before this happens? Because this is very, very soon, and I don't think current PR committee or even our SI committee, if we were trying to do something on our own, trying to advertise for an event this soon, I don't think we could successfully do it by ourselves. I don't think PR committee could either. And that's not speaking down on PR committee, but just from a realistic standpoint, it's really soon to try to plan an event and then also advertise for it properly.
Senator Brewick.
Yeah, Speaker Weathers, I appreciate your point that you believe that there's enough time to plan this event, but and the reason why I did ask Director Garman and the PR committee is because I think they know very well what's going to go into putting it on this event, and I think there's I give a lot of weight to their judgment on this, and if they believe that we could theoretically do this, but it wouldn't be effective, then I see no reason to obligate them to hold this event. I mean, if there's desire for discussion about maybe trying to put it on, I don't see why there's a problem there, but I don't think it's appropriate for the Senate to order them to do so and be forced to comply with that if it's simply something that they believe is not viable in the end. So that's my 2 cents. I will be voting yes on this amendment, and I yield.
Speaker Weathers.
Yeah, very fair. My only overarching concern would be, well, PR committee is actually tasked with holding a town hall every semester, right? And I don't think, I really am not laying blame, but that hasn't happened this semester yet, right? So my overarching fear is that we're continually kicking the can down the road forever and ever. The DEI town hall was hosted, right? But I believe the executive members of PR are required to host a town hall in the bylaws. Besides the point, I think it's something that we wanted to have happen, right? And it didn't happen. I think a town hall is good. We see a lot of benefit come out of it. The multicultural town halls had a lot of success. If we really feel like a month is too short of a time to prepare a successful town hall, then I understand. But I do want to caution against kicking the can down the road forever on this, and we're not going to be here forever, so I yield.
Senator Filippi.
I'd like to yield my time to Director Garman.
I think the multicultural town halls are so successful because they have a strict purpose, and the people that go to these multicultural town halls are multicultural students that care about, their life and their experiences here. I think it's hard to host a student government town hall to get people to care about student government when that's a constant battle when it comes to everything else that we do, whether that is the elections or hosting other things. Meet the Candidate events, no one came. We put a lot of work into that. So, and that's because it didn't, like I said, people come to the multicultural town halls because they care about that specific thing. This has one purpose, and it's student government. So I think that's where we're constantly battling people to get involved and do that. And I think that's where it gets hard. And if we want to host one of those, we need a lot more time to completely prepare and have specific things that we want to accomplish for these, and have it be a little bit more of a bringing more people in to the planning and not just PR committee, given we don't have that much time left in our term.
Senator Becker.
Yes, going off of that, we have no reason to believe anyone's going to show up because people have not been showing up to the past 3 or 4 student government events, and we keep buying cookies for ourselves. We need to stop spending students' money to hang out with each other. It doesn't make sense.
Senator Mahoney.
I'm going to yield my time to Director Grind Senior.
So I've been getting the gist that we don't have enough time, which is very true. I work in the event management office. It's really, we can put it on, but it would be a very bad event. And I understand your need for having us talk to students. Sophie and I, she's not here right now, we're talking about a round table meeting within StuGov that we talk about some PR outreach thing, so it's just not PR, so we can get other input within StuGov, or we could host a web
with our pizza and candidates and desserts and candidates, but maybe something in the evening time similar to this. But
Question has been called for and seconded on the amendment. We're going to go into a vote on this a proposed amendment. Please vote yes or abstain. We're going to go with a placard vote, starting with yeses. Noes. Abstentions. A vote of 27. Vote of 27 to 2 to 0. The amendment passes back on the main motion. Senator Bruick.
Dawson, I just wanted to ask, Speaker Weathers, I wanted to ask you a question. Given that there's some confusion on the this first ordered clause about what exactly is expected of PR committee for this report that they're supposed to make, what was your intention with that clause? What do you exactly expect of it, and what are you looking for from that?
Again, intentionally broad. It could be a simple written report that's come out of a subcommittee of PR or something like that, or it could be, if PR felt it prudent, it could be as comprehensive as a program brought to Senate, right? So, yeah, it's flexible.
Senator Breck.
While I appreciate the flexibility in that, I feel like part of the problem is that it is intentionally broad. It's kind of hard to be given a task and then not necessarily, I feel like we need more of a starting point. And then again, if you develop a subcommittee, that's going to be time. They have to figure out when to meet. You have to figure out who's going to be on it. I feel like if we were to do this, it would be beneficial to have some members outside of the committee help with that, but I'll yield.
Senator Philippi.
I would like to yield my time to President Campbell.
Hey, I'm just going to share some of the thoughts that I've had through conversations recently, and so Speaker Weathers had asked us to talk about the merit of this bill and, to focus on the content and also the intention behind it. I would agree that the Iowa State Daily article was a call to action I don't know how surprised this has been mentioned, but I don't know how surprised many of us were by the results in the room. There's a lot of students that aren't aware of the work that goes on here. And also there were, I believe, 255 respondents. Is that correct? That's a small sample size. But the solution to this as a whole is that we need to work together. We cannot just task PR committee with this. This is a solution that needs to come from all of us. And, when I think about what our PR team does, they fabulously are here to work to emphasize and accentuate what all members of student government should already be doing. They should work to be an echo chamber for what the work we're doing, number one, to connect with constituents and to get out. We need to go meet students where they're at. We're expecting students to come to us with the town hall. I personally don't believe that's going to work. I'm glad it came off the bill tonight or the order. We need to go to Cyclone Alley and go talk to students at Hilton when they're at basketball games and women's and men's games. We need to go to Greek events, and we need to walk around, heck, with a SWOT analysis on our phones and say, what do you think is cool about student government? Cool, that's a strength. What do you think what you could improve upon? Maybe that's a weakness. What's a threat to us? We need to go tangibly ask students, but we need to go to them. It's not PR team's fault if our constituents don't know who their representatives are. I think that's on all of us. And I also, I'm disappointed. I didn't table, and I will let you all know that. I was not there tabling, but I'm disappointed that we didn't have engagement from our body, which is what we're here to do at a tabling event. And I know that we've got busy schedules, but let's try to optimize the channels we're currently working through and appreciate those efforts. So apologize, I'm just weighing in here. But my last thing, go to the students, and if you want a tangible ask of PR committee, my thought would be that you ask for a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Ask them, but we all go do it. We all go out in the student body when we're on SciRide, when we're in the MU food court. I want all of us to be asking, ways we can improve. And I think this is a working meeting as opposed to a task with just PR committee. I think PR committee could do an awesome job leading a working meeting, but maybe that could be a solution.
Senator Claiborne.
I love this discussion, but I feel like we all know what we're going to vote for, so I call the question.
Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? All right. Seeing no objections, we'll go into closing comments with Speaker Weathers.
Okay, I appreciate the conversation as well. I just have a couple of closing remarks here. We obviously have an outreach problem. Everybody here knows that the article makes that very clear. And we have a starting ground to address it right here in front of us tonight with this bill. Obviously, it's not going to solve the problem. I said that right at the start. But it's a foundation that we can build on, and passing it is at least a tangible step forward, right? We can talk all day about what future events we can do. We've been talking forever about what future events we can do to solve outreach. Passing it here tonight doesn't preclude us or prevent us from doing work in the future to further outreach, right? But I think asking our outreach committee to explore new means of outreach is a very level-headed approach, so I yield.
All right, we'll go ahead and go into a roll call vote here, starting with Ed Vate. Yes. Adegarla. Yes. Ulrich. Yes. Becker. No. Brecht. No. Bruick. No. Claiborne. No. Filippi. No. Finaldi. No. Goff. No. Haas. No. Larson. No. Lent. No. Mahoney. Yes. Moskar. Yes. Mays. No. McCready. No. Patel. Yes. Paulson. No. Ruley. No. Schnepp. No. Seth. Yes. Sayaway. No. Skaggs. No. Slade. Yes. Stout. Yes. Thornton. Yes. Wagmeister. No. Weathers. Yes. Of a vote of 12 to 17 to 0, the bill fails. Moving on to new business, 2021-3-018Y, establishing the Local Affairs Committee with Speaker Weathers.
Okay, so there's a lot in here. A lot of conversation went into this. I spoke with the Civic Engagement Committee, spoke with our ex officio Poundstone. I think it's going to be a really positive contribution to student government long after any of us are gone. I think our relationship with the city is incredibly important. I don't think anybody here doubts that. And this just makes a Civic Engagement Committee, which has found itself with a lot of downtime in the past when we're not in election season. So this basically makes a new committee that assumes all of the roles that Civic Engagement Committee did have and adds a whole swath more directed towards bolstering our relationship with the city. So if you have any questions about any of that or any questions about the specific language and what's being affected in the bylaws or the rules, please reach out.
Any questions of intent for Speaker Weathers? Seeing none, we'll move on to 2021-3-021F, Young Americans for Freedom additional allocations with Senator Patel.
Hi, so this is just a fairly simple bill. Young Americans for Freedom are requesting half funding for $750 to register for an event in DC.
Any questions of intent? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to 2021-3-022F, funding the Justin Morrill Society with Senator Wagmeister.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks, we will see this organization in committee. We funded this organization earlier this year, and I'm sure when we meet with the organization in committee, it will become more clear what supplies means. I yield.
2021-3-019F, annual allocations recommendations for fiscal year 2023 with Senator Rulli.
Yeah, so this is a bill that would approve the annual allocations recommendations that the Finance Committee has been working on the past 2 weeks for. I think Mason, Finance Director Zastrow talked about it a bit, but if you want to pull a budget for this bill, please let him know.
Moving on to 2021-3-020F, account allocations for fiscal year 2023 with Senator Rulli.
And this is the big picture bill that allocates the funds for basically all the accounts.
Right. Any questions of intent for Senator Rulli? Oh, Finance Director Zastrow.
If I could just very briefly make a point, the number that we allocated earlier for asset, the 260,500 number, there's a difference of 3,000. You'll notice that's just for asset administrative services that don't get put through a contract or through that agreed total. If anybody noticed the 3,000 difference, that's just why that's in there.
Any other questions of intent? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to 2021-3-023Y, Section 1 of the Rules Revision with Senator Ulrich.
Yes, so as a member of Rules, we've been going through the bylaws and now the operating rules of the Senate. This is just the first bill to roll through of our revisions and recommendations for now Section 1 of the rules, of the operating rules of Senate.
All right, with that, we'll move on to closing announcements. If anyone has any closing announcements, please put your placard up. We'll start with the back row. We'll just go along. You probably all have something to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you probably all saw the email earlier this week, but cabinet applications are live and open. So if you're interested in serving in cabinet next year, please drop an application and encourage your friends to apply as well. If you know someone who's been interested in getting involved with student government, now is a great time to. We've got to fill, I think, about 16 or 17 different cabinet positions. There's a wide array of positions to choose from and apply for. So please tell people you know to apply for cabinet and to get involved. Thanks.
Howdy, y'all. Again, I just wanted to emphasize one more time, please let me know if you are intending on pulling a budget. I had one other thing that I was going to say, but now I cannot remember it. Yeah, okay.
Hey, party people. Really good conversation tonight. I will say, just a reminder that for outreach is for everybody, not just for PR committee. Everybody could always do better outreach, including me. I will say that I do have my complete breakdown student government structure presentation that I created. That's 50 slides that I'm very proud of. It is in the Student Government Drive. I have copies of it. You can make copies and share it as well. So you can please share those with anybody if anyone wants to know about student government. Also, if you have not picked up your t-shirt or you have a t-shirt and you decide that you don't want it, I will literally buy it from you. I don't have a t-shirt, but I want one. I will literally buy it from you. So if you decide you don't want your t-shirt, hit me up.
Hi, thank you for the conversation today. I thought it was really in-depth. Regarding tabling, I will be making a tabling schedule for the Wednesday after spring break. And if you still need your outreach credits, go ahead and sign up. It will be on the MIS page. And if I see you are signed up, I will send you an email about the little to-do list, and I will let Bryce talk a little bit more.
Yeah, great debate, everyone. But I just wanted to say that just because that bill failed doesn't mean that PR committee's work is done. We still have a lot that we've been talking about in the last couple of meetings. We still have a lot that we want to accomplish before the end of the year. And with that being said, if anyone has any outreach ideas or things that you just maybe didn't get to do this year, please tell us. We would be happy to add it into transition documents for the people that are going to be serving in our roles next year. But yeah, please come to us with any ideas. We're very open, and we're excited to finish out the term.
This is something that Vice President Decker and I learned today, and I didn't know, I wanted to communicate it to you all because it really stood out for me, and it was related to sexual assault. And I received a crime notification in my inbox today with not one but 2 incidents, and I believe you all did as well if they all went out at the same time. So today we were talking to someone, and they had mentioned we were talking about the benefit of reporting sexual assault, regardless of if the victim would like action to be taken. And this person had said that one of the main reasons is perpetrator tracking. A national statistic came out, and I don't have a source on this and I haven't checked it, but 95% of sexual misconduct is by 5% of students on college campuses. So it's repeat offenders, and it's a condition of socialized behavior. And so if you know someone in your social group, if you know someone in your life that has had an incident like this happen, and they don't want action to be taken, you can encourage, you can help connect them to resources. But I wanted to share that with you all today. That really stood out to me. I didn't realize that part of it. Not to switch gears, but I do, again, want to wish everyone happy spring break. Thanks for the conversation tonight. Wish you all good luck on exams. And Sophie's got an announcement.
I am so sorry. I forgot to say this during my report, but I am taking spring break off. As a part of the university, as a staff member of the university, we don't get spring break off, and so I will be out of the office. All of you are out of this room. So as an FYI, if you need anything from me, please let me know by Friday at 5:01. I will give you that extra minute. But if you need things, please let me know in that time frame. If not, my out of offices will be on. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Senator Schnepp. One of the senators.
Hi, yeah. So I am a computer engineer, just in case you didn't know, and we are hosting a coding camp. So if any of you have been ever interested in learning how to code, we're doing a beginner's coding camp. You can set up with teams. There'll be food, there'll be companies there giving talks. So just overall something really cool, beneficial to do. Even if you aren't engineering or any type of computer science like that, there will be companies there that will be from hiring for other jobs as well. So yeah.
Senator Mahoney.
So I'm going to echo what everyone else has said. Great debate tonight. So even with, I think, the failing of the order, as it were, for PR committee, I think in some sense the bill still accomplished what it was supposed to, and that's starting a conversation amongst student government as a whole about our outreach problem. We all knew coming into this year that it was a problem. I knew when I sat down as a senator back in September 6th, I believe it was. But it's something that we still have to work on. And so I hope that this is the start of a more serious conversation amongst all of us in student government. This is something we all need to be tasked with, all need to be working on. Outgoing senators, please talk to your incoming senators that are part of your constituency. Let them know what we've done, what we need to do better. Outreach is something we need to seriously look at, because without the student body backing us, we don't exist. We have no power. So that's what we are here for, is to represent them. So outgoing senators, please talk to your incoming senators about this sort of thing. Talk to PR, talk to each other, start having conversations about this. We still do have a month left. We still can come up with some ideas as a group, as a collective body. People that are sticking around next year, let's continue to work on this. Let's continue to talk about this. And I hope this is the start of a serious conversation about how we can improve our outreach methods as a 110-person organization, or however many seats that we have.
Just a quick announcement, just happy spring break. We're almost there. We're also in a lame duck session, if anyone knows. That means like after election, before the new people take office. So let's power through it together. I'm honored to work with all of you, and congrats on elections, and so proud of all of you for the work you put in. So I'll pass it over to Vice Speaker Advait. 1 second, we have one more announcement. Senator Thornton.
This is so personal, but I just want to say, look how high I can raise my hands. If you don't know, I had surgery in December, and it was on my torso, but I can raise my arms now. And I just want to show that off.
Vice Speaker Advait.
Just a couple quick things I want to touch on. I know we all want to get out of here. The first thing I want to talk about is the PR bill tonight. I want to appreciate PR committee for their perspective being brought to the table both yesterday in Rules and in Senate today. On the bill itself, I think we can agree that student government outreach is a problem we're all facing, and yes, it's a collective responsibility on all of us. And even though the bill didn't pass, something that I really think we should be doing more as transition reports. And coming off of that, I think if we can work on a way to translate the expertise and the experience that the current PR committee has and package it in such a form that the next PR committee can hit the ground running, that's something I think we should be looking at. And there's no reason why it can't include some of the elements we've looked at. Obviously, I think deadlines might not have been the best way to do that. At least it's clear in the opinion of the body, and order was not the right way to go about this. But I'd still think, and I think we can all agree, that transition reports and packaging that expertise for the next PR committee to set them up for success would be a great way to give them that chance at success. The other things I want to talk about is Speaker Weathers made a really good point in his legislative packet when he said, if you want to get big things done, now you still have a little bit of time. Don't leave without making your impact. Also, we have 11 to 12, I just counted a couple of minutes ago, and I think at least 11 to 12 people in this Senate will be returning to student government in some shape or form this next term. I think that is a great number to have, and as we're going ahead, just because we're at the end of a term, I think this is still a great time to network. This is still a great time to make friends, especially if you're coming back, because those relationships you build right now will really help you hit the ground running as the new term rolls around. There's no reason it has to be a hard stop between the Senate and the next, especially with those kinds of numbers. We can look at this being more of a transition, a continuation into a new Senate, and I think that'd be really beautiful if we can pull that off. One quick thing I want to touch on, speaking of things that are coming up, is the Iowa State Daily and the contract that we have with them right now. For the past couple of weeks, as I'm sure some of you have heard, some of us have been sort of trying to lay the groundwork to take a look at the Daily contract and take a look at the Daily and how its funding has been operating. We've currently reached out to the Daily, and to be frank, we were planning on having legislation out this week or the week before. However, we're sort of holding that back to allow time for those face-to-face, direct conversations to happen with the Daily itself. I just wanted to let you all know I don't think I can really speak anymore right now and be responsible if I did that. But the intent here is to really let everyone know, because the next Senate meeting is 2 weeks from now. And the goal here is to just go out, talk to your constituents, talk to people you know. I think this is a good opportunity for us to collect our thoughts and be representative of the student body in the best way that we can. Just sort of a heads up, I suppose. And I apologize for not being able to divulge any more at this point, because frankly, we're not even sure what the correct track is right now, and that's what those meetings are supposed to inform. Lastly, happy spring break. I think I've definitely had something of a rough semester the last 2 weeks, and a week off is a prospect I am really excited for. So happy spring break. I hope you all have a good mental health break as well. And try not to look at the little screen on your gas stations when you fill up. I yield.
Okay, almost done. I do want to ask that everybody send me chocolates and flowers for my loss tonight so I can mourn it. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, good discussion, and I look forward to seeing what comes out of it. I think everyone's pretty much picked my closing announcements here clean for the most part. Congratulations to the elected individuals. I know a lot of people ran very hard campaigns, so congratulations on your wins. And if you didn't win, still try to be involved in student government. There's always openings. Yeah, time's running short. Vice Speaker Debate said it well. We still have plenty of time left. If you have something you want to start, get help on, or finish, now's the time to do it. And we definitely still can get it done. We touched very briefly on, and you probably maybe saw the Daily article about the LAS funding being cut. I've reached out to current LAS senators and future LAS senators. If any of you have any interest in exploring what can be done, if anything, to mitigate the damage of those cuts, please reach out to me. We're also going to be in conversation with the Director of Academic Affairs, so feel free to join in on that. That's a very impactful conversation to have. Yeah, I think that pretty much does it. Enjoy spring break, everybody. Good debate. Move to adjourn. Go Cyclones.
Is there a second? Seeing no objections, this meeting is adjourned.